one to another, what concerns they have, what things have they dealt with from their family of origin experiences. That's the time, I think, to talk about that, to explore the relationship from that angle. And once they've been able to do that, then they should be able to determine, do we want to take that next step? And move then into premarital counseling, which then focuses on helping them get together and be a good married couple.
So the pre-engagement helps us get to a point to whether or not we even want to even talk about. We got to, because there are so many things that don't get discussed. Oh,
Right.
I love this. Oh, yeah, it's a great job, and all this other stuff. But then you've dealt with surface stuff.
Exactly.
But you haven't delved down into the dirt, into the root of what's going on. And those are the things that surface after the marriage.
Absolutely. Yes.
So that's great that you take people through that. Now, if someone wanted to be involved in that, do you do, are they all just couple related, or do you do workshops or seminars and have this pre-engagement kind of checklist conversation so that people can have a basis from which to go to even create a dialogue with themselves?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm again, hoping to start to create, to raise the awareness that pre-engagement is a thing. It does exist. It consists of this, and this. Definitely open and interested in, and have done some work in seminars and workshops talking about relationship development. So that's where I'm on the road to. Again, I'm on, when we talk about purpose, I feel like part of what I'm to do is to raise that awareness, because what I have seen over the years in terms of premarital counseling, again, so many people come in wanting to say, help me get married, but we really need to help them to relate well to each other first before we can help them get married. So, yeah, that's part of my purpose here as of late, is to start that dialogue and raise that awareness that there is a pre-engagement, there is a place, there's a space for that. And before, what I refer to is before you start putting these deposits down, and then you are committed to the deposits and you're committed to the dates, before you get to that place, take that time, take that money even, and invest in your relationship. Make certain that you relate well first before then you become committed to these dates, because that's what I hear. I hear people say, issues might arise when we're probing and exploring, and then it becomes, but we've already put the money down. We already have a date. We've already sent out the save date cards. So people then feel more locked in and committed then to the date and the deposit than they do to the relationship.
Right.
So, that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to kind of ease myself into those places now, where before people get to that place where, there's a date and there's a deposit, being able to talk and say, hey, take some time and explore your relationship, discover your relationship, discover what it is before then you move into that next space of being going into premarital counseling.
Does it differ depending on age groups as to what some of the dynamics are going into? Let's say a couple in between 20 and 25 as opposed to a couple that's 50 to 55. The different dynamics that goes into that. I love it, the pre-engagement conversation. How do you address those with people?
Well, I think the 20-something crowd, if you will, are more open to that. I do believe so. So they're okay with hearing about the pre-engagement, and once they are made aware of it, then they are more likely to engage in that space. What I find with, as you were giving the example of someone maybe who's in their 50s, and what I've been told is, okay, well, I've been married before, And perhaps if it's a divorcee or even a widow person, I've been married before, so I know how to be married. I really don't need this. To which I say, you might have been married, but you have not been married to this person. So even though you have the experience of being married, you don't have the experience of being married to that person. So even in that, you have to understand, as you're talking about the dynamics, there is a totally different scope of behavioral dynamics that this person is going to bring to the table that perhaps the former person that you were married to did not possess. Again, even how did you relate to that? Are you going to take that and bring it into this marriage and relate that way? Now, is that going to be good or is that not? That's the space right there where they need to maybe say, perhaps we need to do some pre-engagement, although we ourselves have been married before.
I love it. Because so many times you do hear that from people who have been married and guilty of it. Is that, oh, we've been there, let's go, we did it and everything. And then you find out things down the road that, oh, maybe if we had this, because there's conversations that you don't have.
Absolutely. That
when you get married, you'd be like, oh, maybe we should have talked about that.
Right.
And because you're in a different space and you miss some things, don't think about some things.
Absolutely.
Again, you may have come out of one type of relationship, and this relationship is so different from that past relationship that you forget to see that even in that past relationship, what needs did you not get met that may not get met now because you just crossing the bridge and haven't looked at all the terrain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're focusing and getting ready to build that. And I don't know where it will fit on my plate, but the pre-engagement piece, I would love to be involved with that.
Okay.
If we can do that, that would be just awesome. Because in the church, we have got to do something to reduce the divorce rate.
Right. Absolutely.
Because it makes no sense that in the church, if you're in the church and you still got a 50% divorce rate, and out of the church, what is it, 49? Where's the missing link, as they would say that. Yeah. What are we not doing? What are we missing that is still not being successful?
Absolutely.
So I think that pre-engagement is such an awesome piece.
Thank you, ma'am.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Run with it.
I'm trying. Yes.
Great. We're going to get ready to take a break.
Okay.
But before we go, one of the things we're going to be talking about is the Mental Health Symposium that's coming up this weekend. So if you will right now just give people some information about it, those that are listening to us now, because they may not be able to stay till we get to that.
Okay.
So just go ahead on and give them the information about the symposium.
Yeah, we're going to have a mental health symposium at Beulah Baptist Church this Saturday from 9 to 12:30 p.m. And what we're going to be focusing on is a panel discussion that is going to highlight mental health in the African American community. We're going to talk about some of the disparities, some of the stigmas, some of the perceptions, some of the things that might hinder African Americans specifically from obtaining mental health care. So we're going to really focus in on that. We're going to talk about the church's role in that. We're going to talk about community resources. We're going to talk about those stigmas, those perceptions. We're going to have a dramatization that is going to take place. It's really what I refer to as the faces of mental health. It was created by Tori Hicks, and beautiful piece, absolutely beautiful piece. She'll be there, and her group will be there to perform that, as well as some other people who are going to lend their voices to their experiences with mental health.
Give people the address to people.
Okay, 2340 Clifton Springs Road, Decatur, Georgia.
All right, great. And we're going to take a quick break, and we shall be right back with you. You're with Patricia Ficklin of Let's Talk with Patricia, and Monique Gaston, a licensed professional counselor, staff counselor at Beulah Missionary Baptist Church. And we'll be right back.
approach, my intervention, if you will, is the storytelling part, because it is important for someone to be able to recite that out loud, what they have been told or what they have experienced. So then it is externalized. And when it is externalized, then you're able to deal with it a little bit more, I say, objectively, and I use that word loosely, but you're able to deal with it a little bit more objectively simply because of the fact that it's not continuing to stir around. You're not just accepting it for what it is and for what people have said to you. You are able now to take it, sort it out, and look at it. And again, the most important piece is, how do you relate to that? What do you think about it? How do you unknowingly repeat some of that? How does some of that keep you from doing some things, or how does it facilitate you continuing some things that perhaps you're saying, how do I find myself in this situation again? So you're right. You're absolutely right. Part of being able to start that dialogue within families is, first of all, being able to say, what is it that we need to talk about? And that is, again, once we recite those experiences that we've had, those family of origin influences, even some of the questions you might have dealt with. I have an aunt that would say to me, she said, you do know that there have been some mental health issues in your family. I was young. I can remember her saying this. And I just kind of would go, okay. But then I was like, well, what does that mean? Well, who is that? You know, who has it? And what do they have? Or whatever the case may be. To this day, I still don't know what she referenced, but she would say that. So I do believe that it is important for families to be able to say, this is our experience. This is what has happened. Some of it we may understand, some of it we might not be able to understand. And then how do you move forward with that information? What do you do with the next generation when you become, a parent yourself? How then do you continue to facilitate that with generations to come so that there can be better dialogue, there can be better understanding, and then there can be a better approach to building healthy relationships.
Wonderful. And because once you understand you, then it's
absolutely
possible to be easier to have a different kind of dialogue with someone that you're beginning to have a relationship with. And because you can even then start to ask them probing questions other than the surface on the top of what do you do, where do you work, that kind of stuff. That's great, but you know what? There's some other stuff that we need to talk about.
Absolutely.
And it's not a conversation you have when I first meet you.
Right.
But it is, as you were saying earlier, as you start to think about having a deeper relationship with the person, we need to have some different type of dialogue. It's great we can go to dinner. It's great we can sit and laugh and joke. But at the end of the day, what are we laughing and joking about?
Right, absolutely.
What is when we're out that you find humorous?
Yes.
What's funny about that to you? Why is that funny?
Right.
Why did that cause that kind of emotion?
Absolutely.
What happened in this movie that we watching? What was it about that movie that brought tears to your eye? What did it tap into?
Absolutely.
When we start asking those kind of questions, it makes people think and be like, I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What did
it tap into? And some want to know those answers and some do not. And I say that even in couples counseling, that if you want to create your world to be the superficial world, then okay. But do understand that there are going to be things, I liken it to a house. You can drive by and see a beautiful house, big, beautiful house. Let's say it's in those neighborhoods where, $1 million houses or whatever. You ride through, you look at the house, and you're like, oh, my God, that is a beautiful house. Foundation up. But if you then say, I want to purchase that house, or if you want to have someone to come and assess the value, but if they come and if they look under the foundation, and if there is termite damage to the point where the foundation is basically rotted and gone, then does that change the value of that house? Does it even change the way that house looks to you? So I try to get couples to deal with what's underneath if you will, try to move to that place. I know it can be a scary place. I know most of us have been conditioned. The world is somewhat created to be superficial, if you will. But it is necessary if we're going to have a true understanding of how we are. And it's like I tell my girls all the time, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. You need to know yourself. You need to know how you relate to others. You need to know how you relate to your experiences, your memories, whatever the case it may be. You need to know that in order to understand how it is that you then go out and relate it. Coworkers, significant others, children, the person standing in front of you in the grocery store, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You have to understand how it is that you relate to other people.
I love that analogy that you use. That's great because it is. The house looks great. Everything around it. Then you open the door and you're like, oh my God, what happened?
Absolutely.
And that's what happens in relationships. Sometimes we get scared and we shut the door and like,
Yes.
I don't want to know any more about that, but
Yes.
I love them. I love the outside.
Yes.
You say I do, and now that you didn't want to see on the inside
Yes.
starts to come up.
Absolutely.
And you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
How do I deal with it? Well, you had opportunity to deal with it,
Yes.
to question it, and you pull back.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just have to not be afraid to
Yeah.
find out the truth.
Yes.
The
You can only
real truth.
you can only sweep it under the rug for so long before the rug becomes lumpy. And then you pull the rug back and it's like, oh my goodness, all of this that I tried to sweep away, whereas, like I tell my children, if you would go ahead and just clean that on up, it's done. And it does not continue to accumulate.
And this is personal, but I'll share it because I've told it to other people. I had my husband laughing one day. We were talking about something, and I said, you know what? I saw all the trunks and suitcases and all the other stuff. I said, I didn't see that little small carry-on.
Right.
And he's like, what? I said, yeah, that little bitty carry-on
Absolutely.
that you had under your arm.
Yes.
I missed that because I saw all the big stuff.
Absolutely.
I said, now, we worked through it and everything, but I was like,
Yeah.
to me, that was like an analogy, like, oh, wow, I missed that piece.
Yes.
And it wasn't anything that would destroy us, but it was something that, we would have talked about it earlier on.
Right.
Before it came to the surface.
Absolutely.
And saw it.
Yeah.
And it took a few years for it to show because,
Yes.
I was working through my own issues.
Right.
And that's something else we have to do. If we haven't worked through our own issues, we bring them in.
Yes.
And then we lay them on the table and we got issues from this one, every relationship. And you start looking at all those different relationships, you're like, oh my God, we got to pull all those layers back. Yeah, this is an onion. We're peeling it.
Yes.
We're getting to the core.
Absolutely.
And I think when people get open to the fact that we're going to get to the core of things, I think relationships can be better because, other people will see what you don't see, and then you don't want to hear it.
Absolutely.
When it's here, then let's deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you love them for real?
Yeah, absolutely.
For real.
For real.
The real person.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about what is mental health. I think that kind of gives us a little background and start to move into it because it is all mental. Not the negative of it, but just mental health, the overview of it, and then we'll start to delve into the different pieces.
Yeah. Mental health, I think people approach the topic of mental health thinking that it is something, quote unquote, wrong with them. Crazy people, if you will, just to go ahead and reduce it down. That's usually the two are synonymous in some conversations, which is unfortunate. Mental health is not only the emotional reactions to certain situations, meaning a person who is coming in grieving because of a death. Okay, that's an emotional reaction. They are coming to for mental health, for their mental health. They're coming in because I'm having an emotional reaction to the fact that I have lost a loved one. But what I think we failed to really take into consideration is that mental health also deals with conditions and even diseases of the brain. There are things that have a biological